I'm Dom Griffin, your fave film critic, and you're watching the Armchair Auteur. This is a spoiler-free review of Deadpool and Wolverine. The simplest, non-spoilery way I can describe this movie is that it's what last year's The Flash wanted to be, and that most of what makes it better boils down to Hugh Jackman not phoning it in the exact same way Michael Keaton did. Whether or not you enjoy this film depends on whether you dislike The Flash because of its piss-poor execution, or because of its core premise as an overwrought delivery system for egregious fan service. And if it's the latter, whether or not you can be converted to tolerate that sort of storytelling by generous heapings of self-deprecation and alleged self-awareness. I say alleged because if Deadpool and Wolverine is nothing else, it is operating under the thesis that leveling with the audience over the fact the MCU has fallen off is itself a charming position from which to tell a story. Deadpool and Wolverine seems to exist only as Kevin Feige's desperate attempt to clutch some much-needed "we're so back" from the jaws of its so-over defeat. It's hard to list the pros of this movie because there are not many from my own personal experience, but I don't want to be a hater and imply that there is nothing good about it. It is better than Deadpool 2. It is better than pretty much every post-Endgame MCU movie that is not Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I realize it's not a very high bar to clear. It has kept enough of the heart of the original Deadpool that made it actually a fun movie, not just meme spam, such that the actual spirit of what I think people enjoyed about that first film isn't lost in the sauce here. This is kind of a random aside, but I think that Emma Corrin, who plays Cassandra Nova she played Princess Diana on The Crown, I believe. She's very good. It's not a greatly written part, but she is very good in the movie, and I would have loved to see her play Cassandra Nova in a real X-Men movie, but alas. And as I mentioned earlier, Hugh Jackman does not phone it in. He takes this job pretty seriously. He does a good job as Wolverine, as good a job as he's ever done, I suppose. But as you notice, I'm not speaking in specifics about the plot, and part of that is because anytime a new Marvel movie comes out, and one of the things that they ask of critics when they get to see a Marvel movie early is, hey, please don't spoil anything, please don't give away any of the big plot details, please don't ruin the surprises for fans. And sometimes it's possible to discuss the movie without discussing those things and ruining it for anybody. It's difficult, but it's possible. Deadpool and Wolverine is 98% surprises for fans. So to not talk about those things, there isn't much left to talk about. If you've seen the trailer, you understand the plot of the movie is that, Deadpool has to save his world somehow by teaming up with a Wolverine from another world, and then hijinks ensue. That's really all you need to know. And to pretend that there's more to the story than that is actually a little bit insulting. I've listed all the pros I think I can without resorting to the age-old favorite, well, at least it's fun, that every critic has to do when there's a movie like this that they don't personally feel very strongly about. I'm just going to leave that out. Yeah, of course it's fun. It's a fun movie. I imagine that, it's fun. But the problem with trying to list off the cons for the movie is that all the things I'd consider cons aren't going to be cons if you are the vast majority of people who like Deadpool. I don't hate Deadpool, but my favorite iteration of the character is as a tragicomic supporting clown in Rick Remender and Jerome Opeña's work on Uncanny X-Force, whereas his popular position in the mainstream seems to stem more from a general love of epic, bacon, lol randomness, and a side of meme culture that bores me to tears. The entire time I watched the movie, there were so many gags and bits and jokes and references that either elicited polite chuckles from myself or knowing nods of acknowledgement. I did laugh a few times, but they were all at bits related to spoilery cameos, so I must keep the details of those to myself. But even as I rolled my eyes at some of the excessive fourth wall breaking, I could sense that this was going to absolutely slaughter with most audiences. Because here's the thing. We haven't had any superhero movies released at all in 2024. None. Zip. Zero. Bupkis. So even if people are talking about superhero movie fatigue still, this is the only superhero movie that has come out this year and will come out this year. And there are a lot of people who are salivating for it, who are salivating for a quote-unquote good Marvel movie, for them to restore the feeling, as it were. And for those people, it kind of doesn't matter if this movie is actually good or not, because the structure of the movie, the value proposition of the film is that you get to see Ryan Reynolds do his Deadpool thing that he does even when he's not fucking playing Deadpool anymore, and you get to see Hugh Jackman as Wolverine again, something that everyone assumed was never going to happen. Which is likely going to continue happening, I guess, all things considered. So those things are pleasant. Like Ryan Reynolds annoys the shit out of me most of the time in movies, even though I think he is a genuinely talented actor. And I feel like at times in this movie, I see the Ryan that like I like, the Ryan of like Mississippi Grind. But most of the time, he's just doing the shtick, and people like the shtick. So who cares if I don't like the shtick, right? And like I said, Jackman is fun. He's essentially just kind of rehashing his arc from Logan, only he gets to cuss more. If you know the pro wrestler Jon Moxley, like if I could describe it, I feel like Logan is when he was in WWE and he was Dean Ambrose, and then I feel like this is like him being like Jon Moxley. He's doing essentially the same character, but he's cussing more and he bleeds more. If that's all you've ever wanted from Wolverine, then like congrats, it's here. The paradigm has shifted.
This is what you call a paradigm shift.
So like to me, I don't even know how to like analyze the film deeper or get into like gritty details, because like I literally can't. When I got out of the screening last night, friends were asking me like, you know, what happens in the movie, and within like 5 minutes, I just typed out. They didn't care about spoilers. I typed out every like cameo, every surprise, every whatever, and what I realized in writing them all down is like, one, none of them are that surprising. I can guarantee you as a fan, if you're looking forward to this movie, whatever stuff you're hoping is in the movie, whatever stuff over the last 5 or 6 years you've made a Twitter thread about of like things you wish they do in this in the next multiversal movie, they do pretty much all those things. There's not a single thing that happens in this movie that I didn't see someone fantasy book on the internet already. Such that the movie at times feels like it was like crowdsourced, like it was just like written by committee. I mean, it is kind of written by committee. The movie has like 6 credited writers, the director and Ryan among them. But like, it feels like it was pulled together from like fan wish fulfillment. And that's not a crime, right? There's nothing inherently evil or wrong or bad about doing that for a movie. It's probably going to make $1 billion, you know, but it doesn't leave anything to talk about. I don't know what kind of conversation I can have with people about it. And I genuinely kind of feel like with this movie, if you want to see Deadpool and Wolverine, you're going to see Deadpool and Wolverine, and you're probably going to get what you want out of it. Like there might be a minority of people who would prefer a new Deadpool movie that is just a Deadpool movie and not a Deadpool movie that is simultaneously a mea culpa for everything that's gone wrong in the MCU. And those people might end up being disappointed. I can't say that I was disappointed because I went in knowing I think it's going to be XYZ, and it was XYZ. It was that in bold italics 58-point font. It was huge. It was exactly what I gathered it to be. And judging from the reaction of the critics in my screening, they all seem to love it like crazy. People were cuckoo bananas for it. I feel like some of the loudest reactions I've heard for a movie since I went to a screening of Endgame, to be quite honest. But I didn't leave the movie with that feeling. I didn't leave the movie feeling like, yeah, you know, I left the movie kind of feeling like, well, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't bad. It didn't offend me necessarily. It's just, there's not much there. It's a 2-hour movie that conjures an explanation or an excuse to have a bunch of cameos and to poke fun at stuff. If I have any kind of major critique of the movie, is that I think it's trying to be too many things all at once. And maybe one of those things by themselves would be, for me, a satisfying movie-going experience, but all 3 of them together is just like a little too hat on a hat. So like the movie wants to be like this sort of like quiet meditation on the nature of heroism and like sacrifice and like belonging and having a sense of purpose in the world. It also seems to want to be like a meditative love letter to the Fox superhero movies, like the end of the sort of Fox X-Men era. And that's like an admirable thing, honestly. Like the movie does have this sort of sweetness throughout it that is not simply poking fun at all the non-Marvel movies. It's sort of like kind of bringing them into the fold in a way that's like, no, hey, let's not fucking, there was something special here, which I thought was kind of a little bit charming. Not to make another professional wrestling reference, but if you think about when the WWF at the time bought WCW at the end of the Monday Night Wars, and they did the invasion angle in 2001 of WCW invading WWF, there was this sense that the angle failed because Vince McMahon and the entire apparatus wanted to make all the guys they beat look like losers and jobbers and stuff. You couldn't have a strong invasion angle if the invading forces were a joke. And that's like a thing that people talk about all the time. Like they left a lot of money on the table by not making them equals and making money out of them fighting, you know? Here, you would expect Kevin Feige to, like, you know, relentlessly skewer the movies that they quote unquote beat, right? The MCU like usurped the entire Fox thing. Disney owns them now. This is the new one true timeline, right? But there is, beneath all the like gags and jokes and stuff, there is sort of a love there, you know? It's kind of one of the things that I found nice about the movie is the sense that, like, obviously we're gonna have to wipe the slate clean and get rid of all this stuff for whatever comes for the future. But it was like, hey, for the time, we liked that stuff. And some of those things, let's be quite honest, are better than some of the things that have happened within the MCU. So like that element of the movie, that bit of humility, I actually sort of liked it. My only issue with it is that I feel like it's not as genuine as it appears because it's mostly used as shielding for the fact that they're trying to make a joke out of the fact that the MCU has been going downhill. And they're using this as sort of like cover for that. You know what I mean? So that was bittersweet for me. That I was like, yeah, you know what? Like I did, the Fox movies weren't all that bad. But at the same time, it's like some of these movies are actually pretty terrible. Some of the new Marvel movies are like genuinely pretty awful. They just, are more expensive, I guess, than the Fox movies, even if they don't always look like it. And I suppose that's the thing that's wrong with the movie too, is it does not look very good at all. I, going into this, originally assumed that Sean Levy was going to get the nod to direct the next two Avengers movies because of the people they've got. He seems like the most well suited to it, but it looks like they're going to go back with the Russos. Have fun with that. But this movie actually made me feel less bad that Sean Levy said no, because like this also like looks kind of like dog shit. Like the movie does not look good. Visually, it's just an ugly, flat, uninspiring movie. And most people are not really going to be bothered by that because they're going to be so busy being excited that Logan is wearing a yellow costume. Like that alone is going to make up for so many other things, such that it makes me think that, you know what, why even bother? Maybe there was no point in bothering to try to make a better looking movie because no one would be paying attention to it anyway. So I don't know. My final word on Deadpool Wolverine is it feels like a movie that is necessary, like from a financial standpoint, certainly. And I'm sure it's going to, lead to some stuff for the other two Avengers movies, but it's a bummer knowing that the other two Avengers movies they have planned are probably going to do this, but more. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like going from like No Way Home to Doctor Strange to this, there's this through line of like the multiversal stuff doesn't feel like an interesting commentary the way that multiversal stories in comics feel, where like oftentimes the creators use these, in DC, like every crisis from like the mid aughts onward always seems to be like in commentary with the sense that like these fictional universes are changing and shifting and stuff. These movies don't really have any of that. It's really just more like, hey, do you remember this? Hey, do you remember this? Hey, do you remember this? And like, it can be difficult to watch a movie that is like trying to say something kind of beautiful, trying to entertain you and be funny, but that most of the time it's somewhere in the middle being a Family Guy episode. Like so many of the jokes in this movie require you to be aware of like 4 different levels of like meta or irony. And like, there are people that are going to get it, obviously, and it's the target audience for the movie. But it just made me feel like, man, that joke is like, I have to know that this person played this in a movie before. I have to know that this person and that person have this relationship outside of the movie they did together. And then I have to know 7. I happen to know those things because I'm a nerd for this type of shit. But to require someone to be that deep a nerd to get it is like, I don't know, it's just not my bag anymore. Maybe it was when I was younger, but it's just not my bag now. So Deadpool and Wolverine, you're all probably going to see it by the weekend. Whatever stuff they're trying to keep secret is going to be out in the open. And I can guarantee you that as much as they're all called surprises, as much as they're being treated like these special little morsels they've kept hidden from everybody, there are no surprises to be had. Like, I'm being serious. There's not a single thing in the movie that I have not seen someone pitch happening already. I know there was a thing going around saying like, they actually planted some fake stuff to misdirect people. I don't know what those things were, because pretty much everything that I thought was going to happen happened. But again, the biggest thing I can say here, props to Hugh Jackman for taking a paycheck like this and still treating it like a real job. He still got shredded through, means. And he still is like a delight to watch as Wolverine. Like, he's still fun. He's still enjoyable. Him and Ryan Reynolds actually have pretty good chemistry. I can't take that away from them. Solid enough movie. Like, I find that the entire apparatus of what this is a little insulting and tiresome, but like for what it is, like whatever, hats off to them. They're going to make it a gajillion dollars, and that's what it's all about for them, right? So thank you for watching the video, and if you like the review, you can like, subscribe, comment, all that different stuff. You can ask me questions about the movie if you want to, as long as they're not too spoiler. I don't want to ruin anything for anyone in the comments, but I do want to end the video with a bit of a channel update, sort of life update. If you've seen the last episode of the podcast for the summer, I talked about going through a lot of stuff. I lost my job. I got back into therapy. Things have just been, it's been a really rough summer for me. It's been pretty terrible. And if you follow me on socials and stuff, you've seen that I had to post about losing my apartment as well. Last week, I only had like a week to stay in the apartment. I was gonna have to move out, and it was just a very stressful thing. And I sort of tried to raise some money to kind of get through it. Well, one minor thing happened over the weekend, which is that I have 1 week left. Like, just some logistical things caused there to be a rift where I got like this extra week of space, basically, which I'm very grateful for. But at the end of the week, I have nowhere to live, essentially, and I'm not working at the moment. So much of the summer for me, while I've not been doing the podcast, not been making videos, it's just been like looking for work, going to therapy, trying to get my head back on straight, and applying to jobs and stuff. And it has not gone very well. And I am very well aware that I am not the only person having a hard time in the world. I don't want, like, I'm not special or anything like that, nor do I think I am. But I need to try to buy myself more time to actually like get shit back on straight together, So in the description below, I've posted like a crowdfunding campaign thing. I'm trying to raise some money so that when I move out of this apartment, I'm just moving my stuff into storage, basically. That I have enough money to try to find some kind of short-term housing solution. I'm going to try to either like find an affordable enough like Airbnb to rent for like a month or something. I'm trying to buy myself like a month of time of somewhat stable housing for me and my partner, who's also not working and has been dealing with a lot of health ailments recently. Just for us to be sort of like safe and secure and like continue looking for jobs and find a new real, like, actual permanent apartment solution. So, if you if you have anything to spare to help, please donate. But if you don't, please just share it however you can, if you can. And yeah, and I guess just like thoughts and prayers too. I know people make fun of thoughts and prayers as like probably an insufficient thing to do after like a mass shooting or something, but in this case, I think thoughts and prayers are nice. I appreciate being thought of and prayed for. So yeah, so that's in the description below. I've also added some of like my Cash App and PayPal and stuff. I hate that I've allowed my life to get to this position where I have to be like reaching out to people in this specific way, but like if I want it to get better, and like I've been going to therapy to get better and to get my stuff together and better, there are certain just material things that I need to make that happen, unfortunately. And it's this or like, robbing people, and I don't think I've got it, honestly. I don't think I have it in me to be good at like crime as much as I've always wanted to be. Somewhere on another earth, there's a me that's like really good at scamming or bolder enough to be really good at like OnlyFans or something. But in this particular world, I'm just the person who keeps getting rejected for jobs that I feel like I'm overqualified for. So thank you for listening to this, and a lot of people have been reaching out to me and checking on me and stuff like that. And that means the world. It means so much to me that the goofy little guy that talks about movies matters to you in that way. And I want to make sure you guys know that you matter to me in the same way. So yeah, thank you. So like I said, that's in the description below. And of course, if you have any questions or concerns or anything about Deadpool, you can put them in the comments below. And it might be a little bit before I have another video out while I'm doing all of this stuff, but in the interim, you can always reach me on social and everything in the description. And also you can email me at armchairauteur@gmail.com. Hopefully before the summer is out, or by the end of the summer, we bring the pod back, we bring regular uploads back, and everything gets back. We'll be back. Thanks.